Where are we? Are we live? We're live. Kyle, how are you, sir?
I'm doing amazing. How are you?
I'm fantastic, man. We ruffled a few feathers in the SPG group, didn't we?
A few, just a little bit.
We got to shake stuff up when we can. I'm good with it. As long as we're helping more people than we're hurting, I think that's all we can ask for. And if a couple people get mad at us for some notifications, we'll be all right. There looked like 20 some odd people just in our first post, and then it looked like another 15 or 20 responded when we did tag that wanted to know about tech sales. So I've known you for, I mean, what, like maybe 2, 3 months, really? April?
Yeah.
It's July, however long that is.
Yeah.
So I've known you for a little while. I knew you came from tech sales. In my time getting to know you, I've learned more about you personally than I have. I know you as a family man. I know you as a man of faith. I know you as a bunch of different things. But I learned that you have a company called Tech Pathways. Who are you to the people that want to know, like, why am I here to learn about tech sales? Why should I listen to this guy about tech sales? Like, introduce us and then tell us, what is Tech Pathway?
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, I mean, I didn't grow up around tech sales by any means, but my background, I come from the financial services world, and I was there for almost a decade. That's what I was around. So, recruiting for them, hundreds of people throughout that, as well as running sales teams and developing sales teams. And so I decided to get into tech sales, and I didn't know much about it. And I kind of took this shotgun approach, which was little about a year and a half ago, where you just apply to every company in the world and hopefully you get something, right? And I did that, and I learned real quick that number one, that's not the smartest idea, but number two, it gave me a lot of practice. And so I ended up getting a job within about 3 weeks of starting to apply, which is pretty dang quick. And I got 3 offer letters at that time. Chose a company that was a startup, great company, amazing leadership. And
How long had you been in sales when you did that?
I mean, I started honestly in sales when I was 17. I mean, I've been in sales for pretty much my whole life. I mean, I'll be 30 in January, so more than a decade.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I started out there, got the job. I started as an SDR, just trying to figure stuff out, and within about 4 or 5 months, I got promoted to an account executive. I had pitched kind of the board and was like, I got this new idea, and they was like, let's try it. And so we did that, and it worked really well. And during that time, though, while I was with that company, I did 2 things that I think a lot of people fail to do, right? So many people, they get into tech sales and they lock eyes with the company that they're with, and that's all they do until something happens, and either they go to a different company or something happens with that company and they're out of a job. Where for me, I was like, look, I want to make sure if anything happens or if I'm going to go somewhere else or whatever my career looks like, I don't want this to just be a stepping, right? I want to learn while I'm here. And so I reached out to tons of VPs of sales, CEOs of companies, recruiters from all over the country. And I was just like, hey, I want 10 minutes of your time.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. Pump the brakes. You mean you didn't just put your application on Indeed?
No, I did not. I did not just sit back.
Did you know? Did you put your application, your resume, and all that on Indeed or ZipRecruiter? Were you using any of that?
None of that. No. No, I went straight to LinkedIn. That's like that's the only place that I stuck with was LinkedIn itself. That was it.
Okay. LinkedIn was the spot. All right. So Tech Pathways. So that's you a little bit. That's a nutshell of you. Tech Pathways, you decided to start because there's a demand for people in sales. There's a demand in tech for salespeople. And for some reason, there's this impossible chasm in between where the tech person, the tech company is I don't know, they just the level of human being that they're looking for seems to be out of reach for the average person, and it probably is. Maybe average isn't the right type of person to apply for tech. I don't know. I guess you saw a need for that confusion and to, I guess, bridge the gap. to help people cross the chasm.
Yep, 100%. That's exactly right.
Okay. So I've got an outline in front of me. We've obviously been talking to make sure that we made this a valuable thing. You've got a list of stuff that you're going to do, and we're recording this to put it into the group. Where does somebody start? What's step one?
I mean, honestly, I think step one, most people would think it'd be applying or doing something like that. But I think step one is going to be mindset when they're going to start in kind of pursuing or going into the tech world, which is you don't need to be a tech genius to do this. You don't need to be young. You don't need to be, you don't need to have a degree. And no, I think that's huge because so many people, right?
Twist that up and get some cool glasses or
I'm
something.
telling you. But like so many people, it's like, and I hear this all like every day. People who are like, I'm too young, I don't have a degree, I didn't go to college. Or people say, I've been a teacher for 25 years, and there's no way I could do that because I have to be some engineer to be able to do tech sales. And I think that's the first step, is getting that out of your head that that's something that's going to stop you, because that's further from the truth. And I think that when you start down this road, you figure that out real quick, that those are things that are set up to limit, the amount of people that go and apply. To be honest with you, I think that's the only reason why they do it, because a lot of applicants that get hired do not have any of those things. So I think that step one is getting that nonsense out of your head that you think you have to be some expert before you start applying or you start looking after these companies.
All right. So when we hire, we look for three things. We look for, do you have it? Do you want it? And do you have the capacity to do it? So would you, I guess, speak to that? What is the level of want, and why would somebody want a tech role?
Yeah.
Like, why is it this mysterious, like, I need this, and why do they pay so much damn money? 600,000, a million. I know a couple guys that do over $1 million a year in commissions.
Yeah. I mean, I think, when you first come in, a lot of the times you either come in as an SDR, right, which is outbound reach to companies and trying to, let them know who your company is and set appointments for what's called an AE or your account executive. So that way they can go sell the product, right? Which is normally in tech sales, which when you say tech sales, it's such a broad term, but I mean, there's anything from, if you think of Amazon, they have cloud computing. They're one of the largest in the world. So a lot of companies, whenever they have an organization, all of their information is stored on Amazon servers. But when you're working in that field, especially the bigger company that you go for, right, like the Googles, the Amazon, stuff like that, the pay gets ridiculous, simply because you're talking to other business owners and you're out, you're reaching out to them and letting them know, this is the service that I have. And those tech companies, I mean, they're charging 50,000, 100,000, 500,000, millions of dollars in contracts. And obviously, if you're that bridge to bring, the customer and, your business, and you're the one who make that deal, obviously you're going to make a lot of money.
So I guess my what I would like to do, if I may ask, because you teach this and people pay you to teach this, and I guess by way of grace or your mercy or whatever, somehow the stars aligned and I was able to talk you into sharing, like, actually how to do it, how to get into this. I want to dive into it. Like, I'm sure we'll touch on salaries and stability and benefits and all of the amazing reasons why people do want to get into tech. But for the people who are watching this, they probably already know a lot of that. So we know that step one is the mindset. You don't have to be young or old. You don't have to be a tech person. You don't have to be a tenured sales veteran. So what is the mindset in a couple of sentences? And then I want to get into this LinkedIn stuff, because I know you've got some ideas and strategies on how to optimize the profile that I'm sure we can talk about for 2 hours. So let's start checking these boxes off. Step one, mindset. What should my mindset be?
I think number one is to just remember that, just being honest here, you are going to get denial letters. Just get ready for it. They're going to come.
I can't handle rejection, Kyle.
Well, you may not want to go into anything that has the word sales in it then. That's my first tip, because if you can't, the person who can get rejected the most normally makes the most. So, you gotta have some thick skin. I don't know what to tell you on that one, Robert.
All right, so I'm gonna get the rejection letters. What else do I need to know?
And just know that, look, you want to be proactive, right? I think a lot of times people come in here and they think like, all right, I'm going to go and apply for Google and Amazon and the big companies. And it's like, that's great. You can do that. But my first thing would be, when was the last time you interviewed first? Second, when was the last time you interviewed with a tech company? Right. And so what I always teach everyone is I say, look, don't just go after the companies you want, go after a lot of companies at first, and we can narrow that down. Yeah, because you need to get the reps in. You need to get on the interviews. You need to mess it up a little bit. They're going to ask you a question, and you may be like, I don't know the answer to that, right? And so that's the first thing. Is you're going to need to get used to. You're going to be interviewing for a little bit.
I have a question.
Yeah,
I have a question because I'm a curious guy. There's a stigma, I think, right? If you've been here, you're in sales. When you start, you're prospecting. For me, I was at the grocery store at the candy aisle watching people that were overweight get candy, and then I was bringing them back to the gym. And some people start their cold calling, some people start their door knocking, and there's this place where you elevate above that, your skill set. Somebody saw enough value, they promoted you, and now you're like taking the appointments from the door knocker, from the cold caller. When you get into tech sales, my understanding is that they all hire from within, and that if you're trying to get into tech sales, odds are, if you've never been in tech sales, you're gonna be cold calling. Can you speak to that, and how do I need to think about that if I'm trying to get in the door?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is some truth to it, but also it depends on every company. I mean, when you look and you start looking into what companies sell tech or software, or there's thousands and thousands and thousands of companies out there. There's a lot of big ones. There's a lot of small ones.
Hundreds.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to think though. I guess in regards to like, not every company will always promote within. I mean, there's a lot of companies that don't. A lot of people who've never had tech experience, but maybe they've had sales. And not every tech company is looking for somebody who knows tons about tech. Because I mean, if you really break it down, if somebody's coming from Google and they're going over to Amazon, that's a different company. That's a different structure. It's a different product. It's different everything. So it's like they don't expect you to come in the door and know everything about everything. That's why they have onboarding. That's why they have training. That's why they walk you through those processes, and they give you a ramp up period of normally 90 days to like figure out what you're doing. So I would say that yes, you do want to make sure that you do network and you do know some people in some of the companies, and you try to do some outreach, which we'll get to. That's important. However, don't ever think that just because you haven't been in it or you don't know somebody or whatever the case is, that these companies won't give you a second look, because they will. They're looking for people who are hungry. And I'll tell you right now, not every tech person is. A lot of people, especially when they've been in these roles long enough, they become very complacent, which complacency means you're replaced. And that's just the name of the game. And that's kind of how sales is, right? You got to stay on it. And that's something, if you're going to get into this world, just know it's rewarding. It's beautiful, a lot of freedom, but you got to show up, and you got to be responsible with it. So,
hey, somebody has a question here. We're gonna do a bunch of questions at the end, but maybe this is a good time to. Why don't you read this and see if it makes sense to answer during this little mindset snippet?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, the difference between working for a pre-IPO, that's what I started at, the company that I was at the very beginning. And then working obviously at like a bigger company like Amazon, there's a lot of differences. I mean, there's so many. I think it depends on what you're looking for, right? And I say that not even talking salary. I'm not talking any of that. I'm saying, what kind of culture or team do you want to be a part of, right? So, if you go with a startup like I was, we didn't have thousands and thousands and thousands of people. We had a small team. And so some people, they look at that and they're like, well, I don't want that. I mean, I want a company that's, that has all of these things. But for me, I was like, I wanted to learn. And I wanted to learn closely with the people who were running the company. I wanted to have a say. I wanted to kind of have my, I wanted to know what was going on, and I wanted to learn really fast. I also knew that if you jump into the ocean, there's a lot of fish. And that's the same thing at Amazon or these bigger companies, especially if you're new and you're just getting into this, you have to remember that, right? It's sport analogy, right? But if you have a guy who is in high school, he's looking at colleges, well, one person may say, Bama's calling me, I should go. Well, you going to be first string or you going to be sitting on the bench? Well, Wyoming's calling me. Well, it's not the best school, but are you going to be playing? I'm going to be starting. Okay, well, now you got to choose, because one is all about, well, I work at Amazon, I'm cool. Well, that's great. But I mean, do they even know your name?
Yeah.
Like, are you actually making the money you want to be making? So I would say it's all about culture. For me, I wanted to go with a smaller company, somewhere that I could, pick up the phone and call our SVP if I wanted to. And everyone I work with, they became really good friends. I still talk to all of them today. Our SVP, I just talked to him the other day. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to feel like I was part of a family, not just a number. So that's probably the biggest thing I would say. And also, if you do get with an pre-IPO and you ride the wave, doesn't happen all the time. You got to be pretty lucky. It's like rolling the dice. Like, I live here in Vegas, so it's like gambling. But there are people, right, that get into a company pre-IPO, they hold on to it, they get some stock, and when they go public, you can cash in. You made a lot of money. And that's another.
I'll touch on that one because I do a whole lot of hiring with remote rep. So here's some add-ons to piggyback on what you just said. So it's not just pre-IPO or publicly traded. When you're pre-IPO, you're pre-seed. You might be running off of that you might be running off nothing. You're bootstrapping. Then there's post-seed, and then after post-seed, there's Series A, Series B, Series C, Series D, whatever. You've got all these series of investment rounds. So you need to be aware of your risk tolerance. If you go pre-seed and you've got a wife and kids, you very well may end up without a job 3 months from now. But and now here's the thing, venture capitalists, private equity funds, these big investors, when they're looking at a company, if you're in Series B or Series C, you've already had 3 or 4 capital raises. Now you've got investors who are very smart and calculated that are willing to put their money at stake on this company. They've got a budget. Now you're looking at probably getting a base. Now you might even be able to get some ISO, some initial stock options, and you're going to see that vest. Jordan, I don't think you've met him, Kyle. My buddy Jordan, one of my best buds in the whole wide world. Jordan works at a startup, but it's a $1 billion startup.
That's rare.
He is through several rounds. They've raised like a couple $1 billion. And he was like employee 187. And I hope I'm not oversharing if he's watching this, but if his initial stock options vest on a 4-year cliff, which he's got to stay 4 years before his stock will fully vest, like, he's a millionaire as an appointment setter, guaranteed. If he can keep his job, he doesn't have to go up, he doesn't have to go down. If he stays right where he's at, his stock options will make him a millionaire just by staying right where he's at. So, risk tolerance. Moving on. Kyle, what about LinkedIn, man? If we're spending time on LinkedIn, you said that's. Oh, Jordan, are you watching, you son of a gun? So apparently Jordan's watching. Jordan, love you, man. He was number 86. So
get your number straight, Robert.
my bad. Let's dive into LinkedIn. Okay. I want to talk about LinkedIn. What do I do when I get to LinkedIn? Like, should I just set up a profile and maybe put a picture of me and the kids up?
Yeah. So, I mean, I know exactly where you're going with that one. So, I mean, I'd say that the first thing is to remember that a lot of people that get on LinkedIn, if they've never been, the first thing that it pops into my head is they haven't really been in sales or maybe the corporate world yet. Or maybe, they have, but maybe they just haven't had a look for a job yet, because LinkedIn is specifically meant for business professionals, right? That's the difference between LinkedIn and Facebook or TikTok. You're not there to just consume entertainment. You're there to network, get jobs, meet other business professionals, and really level up your career if you're using it properly. You can definitely get caught, scrolling through feeds and watching videos just like you can any other social media platform. But I would say, number one, remember that. So as you're posting or as you're on there, don't use it the same way that you're using Instagram and all the other platforms, because they are not the same. Do not treat them the same either. You definitely obviously need to have, a nice, good professional photo of yourself. I think it's completely fine to talk about your family. I talk about mine and my kids and what my why is. I don't flood it. It's not like my Facebook, obviously, but I do include some of that in there with other business stuff I'm doing or other things, so people can get to know who I am, not only as, a professional, but also as a father. What do I stand for? What am I about? And I also think that the biggest thing when you're creating your LinkedIn profile, that so many people, they just start posting what they've done, right? I worked here, I worked there, I did this, I did that. Awesome. This is what we're going to do. And it's like, no, that's not. When you're doing a LinkedIn profile, especially when you're getting into tech sales, if you've never worked in tech sales before, you need to, like, in your head, and I've had this conversation with literally dozens of people, is I would think, okay, what are the skills that you have and what have you done? And how does that translate into what you're trying to do? That's the gap that recruiters are trying to do when they interview you, right? Does this person have a skill set that can be used for what we do, so we don't have to train this person from the ground up, because that's going to be a pain in the butt. So I'd say that's probably number one, is figuring out how you're going to market yourself on your About Me section and also on your experience as well, to where you can let recruiters know, hey, I have these set of skills and maybe I haven't been in tech sales, but I know how to do the job already. So when I come in, I just got to learn what you guys like, the product itself, and I can sell it, right? Or I can make the appointments, whatever you're going in as. But I'd say that's probably number one, is when you're working on your LinkedIn profile, really honing down and knowing who you are, what you're about, what you bring to the table, and what you can offer. And if you can roll that into your LinkedIn profile, you just probably beat about 90% of other people on LinkedIn. Because I see it all. I see it every day. When people reach out to me, I'll go to their About Me, and it's like, I was a college athlete. I did this. I did that. I like swimming. My eyes are blue. Like, I mean, like, just like a whole thing of looks like a dating profile. And the first thing I tell people is, and Robert, I mean, you know this, is when you get on the phone with a hiring manager or a big company, you can sprinkle in stuff, obviously, about your personal life. However, that is not a deciding factor whether they hire you or not. That's against HR policy. So, like, they can't not hire somebody because of their children, or they cannot not hire somebody because of their age. So if your whole thing's all about that and you're making a recruiter read a bunch of stuff to figure out what you're about, well, there's thousands of other people that are either applying for the same job or that are in the same niche. So, like, my goal is always to make it as easy as possible for a recruiter to come to my page, know what I'm about, what I stand for, boom, here's my experience, couple bullet points, done. So that way they can see if they want to, reach out to me or whatever. That's probably the first thing I'd say.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Because I like to dig into stuff that people don't like to talk about. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got startups all over the country. You've got, obviously, Silicon Valley is the most famous place for tech startups to come from. Then you've got New York City, Austin, Texas, Atlanta's got a hub, Chicago, like all the big cities, right? So what do you say if somebody leans one way or another politically?
Mm-hmm.
Do they need to lie about who they are in their profile? Do they need to clean it up? Like, if you got photos, knocking Joe Biden or something, you're running political memes and dirty, raunchy humor on your page, which it's LinkedIn, so theoretically you wouldn't be too crazy with it. How do you feel about that? Is there a place for these, for polarity?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two different ways if somebody really wants to look into it, right? Which is like in my professional opinion, right? I don't think that LinkedIn is the best place to be talking anything really political. That's just me, because like at the end of the
There
day,
though.
you're gonna have people who um, no matter where you work, you're gonna have people you disagree with, whatever they feel or whatever else. You're never gonna walk in somewhere and every single person's gonna think the same or have the same viewpoints. And so, I mean, there definitely are companies that you can look up and they're ran by maybe founders or their culture leans one way or the other, whatever. If that's really what you're looking for and that's important to you, you can find that for sure. I mean, you totally can find that. I think that the most important thing is that you're looking at, what is the company going to provide you and your family? What's going to look like in the next year, 2 years? What kind of growth are they going to have? And also reaching out to people that already work there. Do you like the company? Is it a cool place to work? How are the managers? So
Yeah.
I don't really think that people need to lie, but also usually politics and those kinds of things normally, I guess, aren't really brought up. But I would say, I mean, like for me, I keep, the two things I never talk about, like really ever, is politics and religion. It's just same thing. My wife and I have that rule, even with our own friends. Just two things I will never touch on ever because, those are things that, I have viewpoints and I have certain beliefs, but also I respect everyone else's. But that I guess would be my answer on that one. I don't know if that answered. It was kind of a roundabout way, but
Yeah, man, I think it does what it's supposed to do. I just wanted to I ask because I hire people, and I ask because I check people's profiles. And when I go to someone's profile, like, I don't care if there's rules and regulations and compliance and all kinds of things. At the end
yeah.
of the day, I'm still a human being. And if I'm Susan from HR and I'm checking through your profile to see if I want to hire you, I'm probably making a judgment whether compliance says not to or not. I don't know. I'm just saying.
No, I mean 100%. I agree. That's the reason why, like, I treat LinkedIn like basically like an open book where if 5 years or 10 or 15 years down the road, if somebody pulls that up, you're not going to find anything on my LinkedIn that's going to prevent me from furthering my career. So I always try to make sure I keep it clean and consistent always.
I want to know, is this working? Is it sharing my profile?
On
Can
my
you?
end, I see it's kind of split down the middle on my two screens, but I don't know how it is for everyone else.
I see. Let's see if we can. How about now?
There we go. I can see it.
So I want to ask you to tear this thing apart, like publicly roast my profile. And just so you know, and for my own personal ego's sake, I may have had coaching on this. So what are we looking for? I gotta go back over to the LinkedIn. There it is. All right. So what are you looking for? You're trying to hire me, or maybe you're not trying to hire me. This is my LinkedIn profile. I want a tech job, and I've been hounding you for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you looking for first? What's the first place your eyes go to?
So the first thing I'd say is that for anybody who's looking to get into tech sales and obviously, let me just make sure I say this before anybody starts getting, their feathers ruffled, is yes, there are thousands of companies. Yes, there are thousands of recruiters, and yes, everyone has their own philosophy. However, the things I will talk about is pretty much unanimous in regards to like how they look people up. So like if you're on LinkedIn, for instance, a lot of times if you're, or even if you have a business, Robert, I know you know this, you're going to use, LinkedIn Sales Navigator and a few other different tools. And when you're on there, not every recruiter has time to pull up every single profile and go through the whole entire thing. Most of the time it's going to be a picture and it's going to be right below Robert's name right there where it says shareholder and finder. You're going to see that line right there.
So what if I go to my sales nav and I look up myself? I wonder if I can even do that. So I'm looking at this. This is the first thing I see, yeah?
No, I don't know if I can't see it yet.
Oh, I clicked. How about now?
There you go. Yeah. So one thing I'll say is like when you're like a lot of the people when they come to me, they tell me, hey, I applied for this job and within 24 hours there was 150 candidates. Okay. Well, that's a lot of candidates to go through. And you got to remember that one recruiter is probably not only hiring for one position. They probably got several that they're trying to do and they have to fill them pretty quickly. Right. And then depending on the company, they may get commissions, they may get a kickback if you get hired. So their goal is to find the best candidate as fast as they can and get them through the process so that way they can move on to the next thing. They don't have hours to just, look at if you're a beautiful person. So like for yours, obviously, right, it says founder, remoterep.com. And then it says like, it shows a little bit of the about. A lot of the times, like there's a couple people below that, right? It says owner, group GM, e-commerce, director of operations.
That's
So
me way back, skydiving.
there you go. So, I mean, I would say like the first thing is for people who are trying to get into sales is like, you don't need to put, this is just my opinion. I don't think you need to put aspiring SDR or aspiring to become a BDR. Because the fact is, I mean, like I like when I did it or whenever I teach my people to do it, I just put sales development representative, right? That's like the first thing. I don't put aspiring or I want to be or one day I hope to be. I just put sales development representative or account executive. For mine, it says senior account executive. That's what mine says. And then I have it kind of like, a couple of hashes, and I have a few other things like tech pathways and a few other things. But I think that your title is kind of like a flashing light on who you are. I wouldn't recommend going overboard either. Sometimes you'll go to some and there's thousands of things on it and you're like, holy cow, this literally looks like a paragraph.
Yeah.
So like for yours, I mean, let me see. So shareholder and finder of revenue. I mean, for yours is a little bit different, right? Because obviously I know what it is that you do. But like if you want to, like if you go to mine real quick, I'll kind of.
I was gonna just pull up somebody who wants to be an SDR. How about this guy's a sales rep? I know he is. There you go. He's an account executive.
Okay. So
If
there's two
watching this.
So okay, perfect. So wait, you said this guy's watching this right now?
I said I hope he is.
Oh, that's great. Awesome. Good stuff. Well, I'll see you in the DMs in a few minutes.
Roast him.
So no, I mean, the first thing I'll say is he's not in the market looking for a job. Like if I was a recruiter, that's the first thing I would think. And the reason why is there's really two reasons. Number one, it says account executive at his company. That's it. He's not advertising himself. It's like what else he does, what he's looking for, what he has done, anything like that. There's really no advertisement. It's more of like, this is just like a business card. It looks like to me, right? I work here. This is what I do. That's it. Right. So if I'm a recruiter, I would look at this and say, okay, he's probably not in the market. That's what I would think. And then as well as like that top picture that he had, for me, I always like to have something that's easy for somebody to see. So on my profile, I have every time I ever have a student, I make sure that we make them something custom. Everyone has different opinions. I've heard some people say that, like mine's like the best way. I've heard other people say, oh, well, you have to. So like mine's super simple, right? And it just says Kyle Vermeulen, what my title is, my cell phone, my email. That's it. Because if somebody comes there and they click contact info, I want to make it easy. So if somebody's on my profile and they scroll through real quick, I want them to know how to get a hold of me right away. This is who I am. Reach out to me. Let's connect. Because I'm always about, opening up a conversation. I have people reach out to me, every other day with opportunities or hey, I have a sales team or whatever it looks like. Just because they were on my account and they saw my email and they'll email me right now. Because I also want to make sure that it's easy to get a hold of me. Mm-hmm. Right. A lot of the times, this is just a good tip for anybody who's watching, who's trying to get into tech sales. If you are trying to get into tech sales, LinkedIn is now your best friend. Instagram, TikTok, all those those, you can play with those when you're done for the night. But LinkedIn is your best friend. Turn on your notifications. Oh my goodness. There are so many people that miss job opportunities because they didn't look. You what?
I said, you calling me out right now? Like, I don't check LinkedIn ever.
I mean, it's not like, I try to connect with you, a few months ago. It's no big deal, Robert. No, but I mean, like if somebody's in the market and they're really looking for a position or a job, or they're just really trying to hustle, and you're not looking on your LinkedIn on a consistent basis, you might as well just I don't know what you're doing, to be honest with you. Because there's times I've reached out to people or I wanted to refer people, and literally that person doesn't get back for a week. So sorry, didn't see your message. Dude, you didn't check your LinkedIn for a week is what happened, because your messages are right there in the very top there in red. Yeah. Right. And so there's no way you didn't see the message unless it went to spam, which again, make sure you check your spam as well. But yeah, for that's the first thing I would say is, I like to make something professional. I like to make it look neat. Again, I'm not trying to make this look like my Instagram. So,
so that's like, how do I get back to my profile over here? So like, yeah, of course mine is different because I'm not looking for a job, but
yeah, exactly.
To put some consideration though into that profile picture, like, why am I doing this? Is because I'm teaching. I put this profile here because there's a small audience. I'm teaching something. I'm someone who can be who other people trusted. Well, if these other people trusted him, and then this is the same event, and I put a bunch of people up there and we're all screaming. There's Boo Thing over there. And I put that up there again, same thing. I'm teaching, I'm leading a group. We're all losing our minds. And I think that people, when they're choosing their profile picture, like that's the first thing I think. Profile picture,
yeah.
headline.
Yeah. And by the way, if you, because I get this all the time too, people are like, oh, I don't have professional photos like you. That's what they say. And I'm like, okay, but you have a phone, number one. I don't know. Like if you go look on my LinkedIn, right? Like if you go look at my LinkedIn, you see like some photos of my family. Those were done on my iPhone. They were not done by a professional photographer. They were done with my iPhone. So, let's see if they'll pull up. Let me see.
I got hired, y'all. Hey, there we go.
Go to click posts, because that's mine, right? Yeah, click posts. There we go. You scroll down real quick. Wait, that's weird. Some of these are ones that I did not do, but some sponsored ones in there.
Yeah, but somebody's tagged you.
Yeah, but if you go look at my profile, there's one of of my wife, which was on Mother's Day, and it's with our kids. And so many people were like, dude, that's such an awesome shot. And they were like, who took your photos? And I'm like, oh, I did. I'm a professional photographer part-time. You didn't know? But like, for instance, if you, so like that one's obviously on my iPhone. And then there's some that are below that as well, all of them are just on my iPhone. So one of the things I'll say is, if you don't have a professional photo, go grab just a collared shirt, something, stand next to a blank wall, take the photo. And if you want it to pop even more, you can just grab your photo, go to Canva for free, and whatever your background is. So like even that photo right there on my profile, I'll give you a little thing. So that right there was something behind me before. See, it's all black.
Yeah.
There was stuff behind me before, but my wife grabbed it. We put it on Canva and just blacked out the background. So now it looks like there's also dimension as well. It's like I'm wearing blue. There's the white, a little bit of red. So it's kind of a cool photo. And people are like, oh, that's such a dope photo. Well, yeah. But you didn't see all the stuff behind me before. So if you just have an iPhone, take a photo and then just make sure that the background is not just a bunch of people or a bunch of things or all this clutter. That's another great tip. So
nice. What about the about section here?
So for mine, which I even need to update mine a little bit. But one of the things like on mine, I'll tear mine apart, but is I would have a few hashtags in here as well. Because recruiters are also looking at hashtags sometimes now, especially as they become more prevalent. and also like if you look at mine, I talk, the very first thing is how many years of experience that I have, right? That I have a proven track record. And then I kind of talk a little bit about like what I'm familiar with. And then also at the very end, like what somebody can expect if they want to hire me. So for somebody who's getting into tech sales, a lot of the times what I see people always talking about is I hear them saying, oh, well, I sold this, I sold that. It's like you want to make the about me section, like I said, which is bridging that gap of what are your transferable skills that you have had that can transfer over to an SDR position.
Yeah,
that is huge. Which like really, what's an SDR? And SDRs, by the way, everybody who's listening, SDRs or BDRs or they're in tech sales and they're not in tech sales as well. It's just a term. All it is you pick up a phone, you make a phone call, you set an appointment for somebody else. That's it, right? So I would say for anybody, when you're looking at your about me section, don't make it look like a dating profile, like I said, but also make sure that you're putting in there like, I have this many years of experience, in sales. Now, just because you're not a salesperson doesn't mean you don't have experience selling.
yeah.
You're married, I'll tell you right now, you're the best closer in the world. So, I mean, you got to get creative with it, have fun. Recruiters are people just like you and I. But try to put a little bit of pizzazz. Like, don't just slap something on there. College graduate looking for an SDR job. Can't wait.
Hey, here's a question for you. Do you have the toggle over on your side where you can share your screen?
Let me see real quick.
Here's what I'm curious about is the next thing, like obviously we got to optimize this profile. Once it's optimized, the next step is what? Reach out to people. Like I was going to say, can you show me how to use LinkedIn to go and find these people?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see if I can present. Give me one second. Let me log in LinkedIn real quick.
Do you have the toggle that says present down there?
Yeah, I do. Let me see real quick.
Cool.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. I got to add you in here. Let's throw up one of those. All right. I see it.
Okay. So the first thing I would say is I'm all about the more sniper approach, right? Which is figuring out with some of the companies that you would actually like to work with. That's my first thing for anybody. Because obviously if you're not interested whatsoever in what you're going to be working with, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to have a long, stressful, not fun career.
What are the check boxes? First thing that you're thinking when you think sniper, you're thinking like size. You're thinking.
I think it really comes down to for me, obviously, like, pay is very important to me for sure, but also culture. That's huge for me. Like, is management, are they, are they looking at you with a microscope? And, if you, don't make, exactly this amount of calls, you're gone the next week, because there are some companies like that. And you need to know that. You need to do your research before you just say, oh, I'm just going to throw my hat in with any random company and hope I land somewhere. So for me, culture is super important. Like, that's why when I got those 3 offer letters at the beginning of my career, I went with Be Generous, which Be Generous was the smallest company at the time. But because I had talked to the team and I've looked at the other people and I figured out what their culture was like, I knew I was like, I'm going to be happy, like, going to work every day. It's actually going to be fun. And it was super fun. I had a blast. Every day I woke up, I was excited to be able to hop on the call and be able to talk with my teammates and really like discuss what happened and what we're going to do for the day. But not every company and organization's like that. There's some that it's like, you don't talk to your teammates really, other than like on a Slack page or your boss really only calls you when you're.
Were you remote?
I was 100% remote, and I still am.
So remote, company size, company culture, payment. What else? Check boxes.
I would also, if you're an SDR or even an AE, one of my biggest questions I tell everybody ask in an interview, which is, what's quota right? Like what is quota? What do I need to hit to make quota? But then also how many of your reps are currently hitting quota? Who's actually getting their bonuses? Who's actually getting paid out, right? Because if only like 15%, 20% of their people are hitting quota, I'll tell you right now, either they have a horrible sales team, which I don't really think is the case, or whoever management is, they're expecting way too much out of their salespeople, and the market's dictating that, a different way. So like I would recommend, if you're not familiar with, like, for instance, with RepView, you can go get an account. It's free. In RepViews, it's like Glassdoor, except it's strictly for like tech and pharmaceutical sales, where people who are already working in the industry go on there and they rate it based on who's hitting quota, bonus packages, starting salaries, like what people are making for base, and then what people are making for OTE, right, for base plus commissions. And it also will break down like 50% of the company that gets hired, this is what their base is. So it's nice to know when a recruiter says, hey, are you comfortable with, $70,000 a year? That's what they love to do. And they're like, that's what we pay. No, that's not what they pay. There's always a scale. It's always a scale, right? Because in their head, the least that they can pay you, the better. And so when you have that pulled up, you can also use, like, I literally will have people pull their RepView up with that company on there while they're on an interview, like if it's like, through the computer. And they can literally be like, so I know that your average pay is, I know it's sliding, but I know, about 50, and they say it or whatever. And usually the recruiter is always like, yeah, I mean, there's definitely room. I mean, we definitely have room, but it went from we pay this to, yeah, there's room, because your facts. And when you're educated, recruiters know that really quickly, and it makes you not only a more valuable candidate, but when you go through those rounds of interviews and you get your offer letter, it's way easier to negotiate a higher salary if they know what you're talking about. But back to your other thing, you were talking about jobs. When you're looking at jobs, obviously there's thousands of different ways to do this, right? SDR, account executive, whatever. A lot of the times I'm just going to do SDR, United States remote, just because that's what a lot of people are doing right now. And there's thousands of filters, I mean, that you can search through. I'll tell you right now, when you're first looking, I would say, past 24 hours is where I start. Then I move up to like past week, simply because I want to make sure that no matter what, like, I'll give you a quick example. This happened to somebody just the other day, and, they let me know, and I was like, well, here's why. Is they applied for a job. It was posted, a week ago, and they applied at nighttime. That next morning at like 11 o'clock, they got a denial letter and said, sorry, but we look to go somewhere else. And they're like, man, I can't believe. And I'm like, no. They didn't look at your stuff. I guarantee it. There was 100 and something applicants. There's no way they looked at your stuff. It went in, and they probably have a cutoff somewhere of how many applicants they'll actually be able to look at. Your resume and all your stuff then goes into the back end, and hope, if something opens up, they'll pull it out and they'll look at it. But at the end of the day, you're not getting looked at because the position's either already been filled, or there's so many applicants that are already in the interview process, you don't even have a chance to put your hat in the ring. So I'm going to do past week, though, just to so that way there's more results, but I'm just going to kind of walk through. I'll show you how I would do this. So number one, I would stay away from promoted posts, just because you never know how long ago that they did post those. And if you click them, sometimes you'll get like this one right here is crazy. 3 days ago, 137 applicants. But I'm going to go with, like, I know this company very, very, very well. Blackbaud's very well known. But the first thing you do when you click on one of these, it's what I would do. And by the way, if you guys don't have LinkedIn Premium while you're looking for a job, I would recommend getting it. Your first 30 days is always free, by the way. And the reason for that is because when you scroll down here and you have the premium version, I know a few more things than most people don't, right? Like, I know where the applicants are from. I can know, how their hiring's been, where people are coming from, what colleges that they went to, more about the company. And usually I can also know as well, which they don't have it on here, but I'll know exactly how my resume or how much my profile resonates with the actual job description itself. So I could go back into my LinkedIn profile and re-edit some of my key points to make sure that those will then pop up when I'm applying for the job, right? So let's say you apply for the job, though. You go there, you apply, you submit your resume. First thing I do, which on here there's not, but usually there'll be like a recruiter, and it'll tell you, hey, this is the person who, promoted the job, right? But let's say that there's not. So we're going to go to their actual LinkedIn page, and we're going to go to people. And the first thing I do, because they have a lot of employees, right? But I'll tell you right now, a lot of the times, which statistics are always depending on what you're looking at, but I would probably say about 60 to 70% of people who are hired, which Robert, you said that, right, are internal. Internal does not mean that like Robert's my best friend. Internal means you reached out to somebody who was higher up and somebody recommended you based on a conversation you had to the hiring manager to get you in. That's what that means.
Yeah, we've done stuff like that when we're selling B2B. You reach out, you create an ally inside of the organization.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. Yep.
Yeah, and it's funny to me though how people applying for an SDR position, especially after they've done a course or something like that, and they know even more than the average person higher up, they forget they forget what an SDR does. Like an SDR's job is not to just reach out to one person in a company. An SDR's job is to reach out to multiple people, usually the decision maker, then somebody above, somebody below, send out DMs on LinkedIn, and also send out emails, right? We're hitting all different points because we're trying to get them to notice us, to let us in the door so we can have a conversation. So like the first thing I would do is when you're looking at the people, I would look down, which you can type it up here. I can go through this for days, but let's say, for instance, we went through here, and I would find a hiring manager or a director of sales, somebody like that. And also I would also find as well, which so many people don't do.
I'm going straight to the CEO, baby.
Right. Which, and I'll tell you, there's nothing wrong with going after people who are higher up. Like, as I was working at Be Generous, the reason why I started learning some of the tricks and tools of the trade is because while I was working in tech sales, I was still reaching out to other people. Like, I had great conversations with big executives of some different AI companies that were in tech sales, which, by the way, a lot of people told me that, y'all, dude, I don't know why you're reaching out. Nobody's ever going to get back to you, blah, blah, blah. Well, they did. And I had a great conversation. They introduced me to some amazing VPs of other tech companies. So It's like you can't stop networking. But also, like this guy right here, let's say if he's a sales development, like sales and software development, I'd reach out to him. I'd reach out to anybody that's in sales. I'd reach out to, the different hiring managers. I would reach out to whoever, that you can in regards to your position. The more people you reach out to in the company, the more people, that see you. Like right here, sales development representative, reach out to that person right there. Boom. Hey, wanted to reach out. I just applied for an SDR position. How do you like it? Would love to talk with you. Get her on the phone. See if they'll have a conversation with you.
You want to hear a funny story?
Yeah.
When I was like 20 years old, I had already been in sales for 2 years. I was at a gym and I wasn't doing I guess by that point, I was probably the number one sales rep for memberships at that location. It took trying to leave and then come back, and then I went all in and got crazy with it. When I tried to leave, I was looking for benefits and stability. Like I was told I got to find a job with a big company where there was room for growth. So I went I'm a pretty big outdoors type guy, and I went to REI to work retail, just to be one of their store people, work inside the store as a retail person. And I got in there, and I was following up. I applied like 3 different times, and each time I got a rejection letter. And I go into the store. I think I was just hanging out because I was in the area and I was shopping for outdoor stuff. And there's one of their retail people's there, and there's this older guy with white hair, and he's got this rope, and I could tell like he's not climbing with that. Like it was obvious. And he was asking questions about like, what do I need to tie somebody off? And I was looking at a book and I was listening, and I interrupted. I was like, do you mind? Can I just ask you, like, what are you trying to do? Asked a few questions. The guy was going to sell him a rope and like a carabiner. It was like an $80 order. So by asking him those questions, I found out, yes, the rope was a good idea. He needed a belay device. There was a couple other things he probably needed. He needed anchors to make sure that he was attached to something. What he was trying to do was to belay somebody who was on the roof while he was on the ground to make sure that they had an anchor point. And I taught him how to do it through outdoor skills that I knew. Well, I found the CEO of REI. Her name was Sally Jewell. She's no longer the CEO. And I emailed her. I was searching Google. I found her, emailed her. Her assistant messaged me the next day and said, I've relayed your information to Sally. I got a phone call and I got a guaranteed position at any store in the country. I took that order from 80 to like 480. And they were like, we love it. You can work at any of our stores and we will guarantee you a position. And then I never worked for them because the guy who asked me about the equipment hired me to climb on roofs for him. That's how I got in the roofing industry.
Dude, see, but it goes to show you, I think a lot of people when they're applying or they're trying to get into tech sales, they're so focused on the hiring managers that they never look anywhere else. Like they're just like this, and they're like, I hope they look at my resume, and it's like they're not going to. You need to be the loudest voice. This happened a month ago, and I think Robert, I may have told you the story, but the guy that inspired me to get into tech sales, I'm not going to say his name because everybody would just bombard him. I already know, but he's like all over. You what?
I said it's Elon Musk.
Right. But he's like all over TikTok everywhere. And he inspired me. Like when I watched his stuff, that's why I was like, I could do that. I want to do that. And so one day I was, on this page and I clicked contact info and it had a number and I called it and he answered. And I was like, I'm going to be honest. And I'm not going to lie to you. I did not expect you to answer this phone. I thought it was fake. And he's like, I'm going to be honest with you. In 2 years, I've had my number right here, public. It's my cell phone. You're the second person in 2 years that's ever gave me a call. He's like, I don't know what you want or what you need, but I'm here to listen because honestly, nobody ever calls me. So what's up? And I had
who is it?
I'm not going to say not on here because everyone will know who he is and they're going to go call him. But it was cool because I had like a 45-minute conversation with him about tech sales and this and that and other ideas that I had and in different stuff. And now I reach out to him probably every other week and we have a good, relationship. But it just goes to show you, though, that so many people are so afraid of reaching out like, oh, am I going to bother them? Well, if they're rude to you and they just start screaming at you, guess what? I wouldn't want to work for them. Like you're going to figure out real fast if you want to work for somebody. If you call them and they're like, don't ever call me again. I hate you. Click. They're in sales. Like I'm a really patient person. Normally when you call me, it's like, what's up? Like it. Just so many people need to be more, they need to be a lot hungrier in the search. And that, whether you're on an interview, the first round or the last round, if somebody has more experience than you, but you're hungrier than them, because I'll tell you, there's a lot of people who got laid off in the beginning of this year when the big layoffs happened. And there's a lot of them that you think, oh, they have more experience, they're going to get chosen. They have more experience, but they've been paid so much money for so long to do absolutely nothing that a lot of them they won't get picked. You'll get picked. And you'd be like, there's no way. I'm telling you, it happens all the time. Because if you're hungry and a company knows you're going to be there long-term and you're going to go after it, they'll choose you. But you just can't be afraid of it. So,
all right. We're getting towards the end of our hour. There's something do you still have time if we stick around for a minute?
Yep.
All right. So here's my, like we're salespeople. Hungry, right? Drive, ambition, motivation. Like these are things that we know, even though a lot of salespeople don't participate in any of those very fine character traits. So let's say I was ambitious and I reached out to everybody. I was laser targeted. I found out the jobs that I wanted to apply for. I got some connections. I've got these chats going. I score an interview. Like I see people post in SPG all the time. What are the things that I need to prepare for in that interview?
So specifically with tech sales, the first round, almost 90% of the time is always just with the hiring manager. And their goal is just to see if you even have some skills that pertain to the position. If so, they'll usually move you along. But normally the second and third round is where people usually have issues. And I'll tell you, so many people though, they apply.
People just got nervous. Like,
Well, so many people though, what happens is that they apply for a job on LinkedIn, they saw the job listing, and then for some reason they forget that there's a job listing.
yeah,
Like literally the job listing, if you read it, it will tell you what they will probably be asking you about. It will give you the requirements. It will give you what kind of software they use. It will give you the things that they want you to have. It will tell you exactly what they're probably going to ask you. So number one, that's the first thing. Look at the job description. Number two is do not wing it. Like, please don't do that. Like, if you think you're going to get on a call with somebody and they're not going to ask you, what do you know about our company? And please tell me what it is. You're delusional. Like, you need to know you don't need to know, well, the software works. You don't need to know that. Just if it's a software company, don't just say you're a software company. Know who they market to. You know what I'm saying? Like know a little bit of the details of what you're actually going to be working in. That's the first thing. And then just remember as well, like I said, you need to make sure that you can go through your past of whatever.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Can we role play one real quick?
Sure.
All right. So you know my company. You know what I do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So I want to ask you what you know about my company, and then hear how would you craft an answer like that. Can I put you on the spot like that? Or maybe we can even do like Chick-fil-A or something. I don't know, because I have a Chick-fil-A cup right here.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean, whatever company you want to do, that's fine with me.
All right, let's do remote rep.
I want to make sure I say this as well. Usually they won't just say, what do you know about us? If they do, they just want some one line answer. Usually they'll say, what do you know about us? And why are you interested? That's normally what they'll do. Like, why are you choosing us to work with? That's what they're trying to make sure that you're even interested in even being there. That's normally why they ask.
Yeah. Do you have it? Do you want it? And do you have the capacity to do it?
Yep.
All right. So, Kyle, what do you know about us, and why are you so intrigued to secure a position with our company?
I mean, it's a great question. I mean, I'll tell you, Robert, when I think about what your company does with remote rep, the first thing that comes to mind is peer leadership, all the way from the top down. Every single person that I have seen or that I've had the privilege of interacting with on LinkedIn seems to be an outstanding person, not only in leadership wise, but also it seems like you have amazing people who work with you. But the results speak for themselves 100% of the time. The amount of income that the companies have worked with you have consistently gained is absolutely impressive, something I haven't seen anywhere else. And I know that you guys, at least from what I've seen, you're working on some amazing projects right now and are super innovative. And I want to go, be a part of a company that's not only consistently growing, but also a company that thinks outside the box, and they're not afraid to rattle the cage and challenge the status quo. That's probably one of the biggest reasons why I'd say I would love, to work with your organization.
Nice. Bravo. All right. So I think we get the hang of it. Give them some tidbit. Don't try to fluff them up. Don't try to be a hero. Just tell them, like, outside looking in, I've talked to a handful of folks. I get it. It looks like, and I could be wrong, you guys are doing some magnificent stuff. It aligns with me because I would like to be a part of that. It sounds fulfilling, and it sounds like something I can wake up and be motivated to do every day, effortlessly. Push you on. Okay. What else on the interview side? What else are we looking for? What are some ones that are going to catch people off guard?
I think it's funny that this one does catch people off guard, but I think sometimes because people haven't interviewed that much, usually when they're entering into the tech world, is they'll ask, give me a time where maybe you something didn't work out the way that you planned, and how did you respond to it, and what did you learn? That like that right there is literally like a layup question, and some people use it. I've seen way more recruiters use it than not. It's kind of a filler question. To me, when I hear that question, I'm like, the recruiter maybe hasn't been around a long time, but it's literally a question that they all use.
And then you just hit them with like, I can see you're new at this.
I mean, that's one way to make sure you don't get the job. But I mean, that's a huge one. And you don't have to like be 100% just talking about business. Like what they're trying to make sure of is just like, look, have you failed before? Because in all honesty, you're gonna fail here as an SDR. You're gonna have people hang up on you. You're gonna have people who don't want to talk to you. Like they want to make sure that you've had some experience doing that. Whether it's in a personal life or how do you handle adversity? How did you overcome that adversity, whatever that is? And then what did you learn through that? That's all that they're looking for. So like I would just say, like, I'm a bullet point person. So before I would ever hop on an interview, or I tell people before they hop on an interview, bullet point stuff. Even your resume, don't read your resume to them. They have it in front of them or they're looking at it as they're talking to you. Bullet points. That's it. You want to be short, sweet. You don't want to just talk 20 minutes on a question. They don't have a lot of time. So.
Yep. All right. So we're going through the interview process. How many interviews are these typically going to require at an SDR level, an AE level?
Usually I'd say 3. The first one, normally with the hiring manager, it's usually a phone call. They'll just give you a call. Hey, Robert, Kyle here with so-and-so company. Just tell me about yourself. I'll tell you a little bit about the company, talk about salary, and see if it's a good fit. That's pretty much how it goes. It's pretty usually easy the first round. Second will normally be with like a manager, SDR manager, somebody like that. And then third, it may just be like, a director or somebody like that. Usually, but if you're past the second round, you're going into the third. The only thing that changes is they're just going to ask you a little bit more detailed questions about maybe the company itself, what you know, and also like the experience that you're bringing to the table. Those are really the only difference in between those rounds.
Yeah. All right. What's going to stop someone from getting a position?
I think if you just show up and you interview and then there's nothing that happens between you and that recruiting manager or the VP or whatever between the first one and the second one. If you don't have a lot of experience, like I said, you need to make the most noise. That includes following up, thanking them for their time. Like that is huge as well. Letting them know, hey, Robert, I would really want to thank you for the interview that we had today. It really meant a lot to me. I'm really excited. I'm even more excited now, learning more about your company and what your core values are. And I cannot wait for the next round, and I'm excited to move forward. Yeah. Just something simple, like letting them know, hey, I'm here. I really enjoyed our time. Because you'd be surprised. A lot of the more senior people, they ride their resume because they're just like, I have the skill and talent. You should just hire me. And especially in today's world, that's not working as well as it used to. Where these people who are more,
and do you want it? That want is so important. I can't tell you, dude, how many people, I guess I probably could tell you how many people I talk to that seem like they don't give a shit if they get the job or not. It's like they're interviewing and they're like, sometimes they play the game and then at the end of the call, they'll do nothing. You know what? One of my favorite strategies, I learned this forever ago. You ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Turn them down. Like, my favorite thing in the world is like, hey, look, thanks for the interview. I really like you as a human being. Like, I could see how you would be a fit. There's just a couple other guys that stand out a little bit ahead of where you're at currently. And I think they're going to probably be a better fit for the role. But thanks so much for your time. You wrap up like that. So I compliment them because I want them to know. Like, I do, like, I like you. But there's just a couple other guys that stand out a little bit better. Do you know how many people roll over and show their belly right then? It's a sales job. It's like, that's on purpose. And that is a famous technique. So if somebody turns you down, it very well may be a test. For me, it is for sure a test. I want to hear how you handle the objection.
So let me just say one point on that. There was a guy yesterday, one of my students reached out and said, hey, the girl that I messaged was an SDR director, just reached out to me and had told me that this position they posted like 5 days ago, there was no more positions available. Okay. I said, you email her back and you need to thank her for reaching out to you, and then reach out to her boss and just say, hey, I talked to whatever her name was. And I had already applied for an SDR position. I'm excited. Can't wait to interview and looking forward to the next steps. That next day, he had an interview with the director of sales for that company. And then I said, hey, by the way, when you're done, I want you to email him and I want you to CC her on the email. And I said, I want you to say, thank you so much for getting me in the door. I really appreciate you, letting so-and-so know about me. Now, of course, he didn't know that he already talked to the SDR manager, but I wanted to kind of grind it. And it was hilarious because he had a great interview and hopefully go to the next steps. But it just goes to show you, though, it's like, she's like, nope, sorry, we're all full. Yeah, it's great. Have a great day. And I'm like, dude, I don't care if she says it or not. I know for a fact the job has not been filled yet. There's no way that they only give people it's like, come on.
I can say this as a visionary. Like if I put somebody in place to be a hiring manager, odds are they don't have the same vision as a senior director, a manager, an owner in a lot of cases, if it's a smaller startup.
Yeah.
If you can get to the C-suite, they think differently than Susan in HR, or the what did you call the BDR director?
So a lot of them are like you're talking about the recruiters?
The director of SDRs, is that what you call her?
Well, usually it's like an SDR manager or something like that, or somebody. Yeah. There's so many different titles out there nowadays. But
that's middle management. Their job is to make sure you show up on time. Their job is to make sure they don't get fired. Right?
Yeah, it's true. They're a glorified babysitter sometimes.
Right? Well, dude, with the remote, so this is huge. With the remote shift, especially, it was happening already pre-COVID. Then COVID hit, and it increased. Like, I don't remember the number. Well, 100% of companies went remote in the United States for a while there. Mm-hmm. But it has sustained where it was like 15% pre-COVID. It's now still like 30, 45% use remote workforces. So if that's true, I don't know where I was going with that. If that's true, then fuck, I had a point to make, and my dog started barking in the background, and I lost it.
You're good, man. You're good. I mean, yeah, working remote now, I mean, especially for people who have families and they have kids, like that's why I love working remote though. Is because I'm here at home. Like when my kids get done, like I'm here. I can spend more time with my kids now.
I know where I was going with that. So when the remote shift happened, middle management, all of them got fired because you don't have to worry about who's coming to work on time or watching the KPIs, because the remote workforce is submitting their KPIs and it's in a tracker and a dashboard. And like, well, what does Michael in middle management do? He used to make sure his team showed up and he was rallying his team, and he's just not doing that anymore. So I say that to say, when you're applying for a tech position, your middle manager thinks one way, whereas your visionary thinks a different way. And we have no more positions available. A company that has sales teams would be high out of their mind not to have positions open for their next top closer. Your job is to appear to be the next top closer. So, anywho, that was my point. I lost it there for a second.
You got
it. I thought I lost my thought and my marbles. All right, man. So is there anything else? We've got the interview. We've checked some boxes. We've got 2-3 interviews. You've kind of given us an idea. We're an hour and 15 minutes into this. This has been huge. I'm sure we could do another one to get even more detailed in the future. But for the time being, my understanding in what you do is that you take people who want a change in their career. You know, these are successful people who are established and have experience. They want more. They're trying to get to that more, whether it's a base and commission, a stable company, it's got benefits. I think that's some of the luster around tech sales. You help people cross that gap. You hold their hand through the entire process and help them get that job. So I want to jump off of here, but I also, as a thank you, told you like we could push this to our audience because I thought it is valuable enough and enough people post about it trying to get into tech. Everybody, like once a week, somebody posts and like 15 people will respond. Anybody been in tech sales? How do I get a job? Kyle. Kyle's the guy who gets you the job. So what is working with you? Like, can you give us a soft pitch and you know, don't bend anybody over in the group?
Yeah. No, I mean, with what I do is very, 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 it's simple because it's, you know, a lot of the times with right now with where the tech world's at, you may have 200-300 people applying for the same job within 24 hours. My job is to help craft not only your resume, cover letter, all that kind of good stuff to make sure that the recruiters know exactly who you are, what you stand for, and that you're hungry. But then also helping you walk through that process of getting the interviews, walking all the way through. And once you get that offer letter, now it's time to play ball and, you know, negotiate a better salary. That is all that I do. I make sure that you can market yourself better. That way you can get in the door, we can get around the gatekeepers, and we can get you those interviews and then coach you through that process of what every single step's going to be till we ultimately get you an offer letter to work with a company. That is what I do.
I love that. I love that. And if somebody wanted your help with that, how is it? I mean, I know we saw your phone number and your email on your LinkedIn profile, so that's one way they can get to you. But more directly, if somebody wants to get to you, how do they do so?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would just say, you know, obviously, hopefully, everyone on here who's looking to get into tech sales, you have a LinkedIn. If you do, you should definitely find me on LinkedIn and add me, connect. I accept all the connections I have, and reach out to me. You know, you can just let me know you watch our the interview tonight, and we can schedule a call more one-on-one, obviously, and we can break down what you're looking for and what it is that I can do for you. And I'd be more than happy to have an open conversation and really seeing, how we can help. Because I know I can, and I'm here to do so.
Kyle, so they can find you on LinkedIn. I want to, because we're here at the end, we'll push it up on the screen, but what is should they hit you on phone number or?
Yeah. If they want to as well, they can. Absolutely.
What's your phone number? Say it out loud and I'll put it on the screen too.
Yep. 702
702
277
277
2890.
2890.
Yep.
Posting now. Throw it up there.
There you go.
This is Kyle, guys. Kyle's a friend of mine. We've known each other for a few months. I've seen what he's capable of. He is a phenomenal sales professional. He's somebody that I would trust very, very much. And I hope this has been valuable to you guys in and of itself. I hope it gets your mind thinking what the possibilities are for you. I think that a lot of people don't have a clue what tech sales is or means. I know for me, there was such an escalation and a confidence building period. It literally took me a decade in order to find out that, like, holy cow, I can make hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that gap was simply exposure. I didn't have the exposure nor the confidence. And it sounds like what you do is you help people with the exposure side of things. You kind of hold their hand while they're getting that exposure and building that confidence. And maybe you give them a little permission to level their lives up. Is that what it is?
That's 100% it. Sometimes we get in our own way. And I'm kind of like that coach, that mentor, that cheerleader that's right there along the side saying, hey, we're going to get this done. That's what I do.
You look like a cheerleader.
Oh, well, thank you.
All right, Kyle, man, I appreciate you very much. I'm going to go hang out, relax for the evening, signing off.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Hopefully I was able to provide some good value to you guys, and hope I can speak to some of you soon.
I think you did, and I think we'll get the recording posted up, and we'll push it out to a handful more people.
Awesome.
Kyle, man, have a great night, sir. Talk soon.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a great night.